And now we will turn to our first panel in this edition of Vision Gulf. When we say vision, we maybe think about a buzzword or something, everybody speaking about visions. But it's the spark behind every bold ambition, and I'm really glad to moderate this, this panel. So in this panel, we will explain and go through how nations are shaping their visions from changing the games in innovation, in strategic investment, and sustainable growth. And joining me in this panel, a few brilliant minds to discuss these visions. Marie-Cécile Tradieu, COO Investment Division for Business France. Mohammed bin Laden, President of Saudi French Business Council, CAFS. Juan Leon, CEO of Istithmar, Qatar. Sharif Shawqi, Regional Tax Leader in PwC in Kuwait and Middle East. Please join me to the stage to start our conversation. Truly now living in unprecedented time when it comes to what's going on in the global economy. Between Trump administration policies, US-China trade war, tariffs, supply chain, and so many other topics that business model everywhere being rewritten. Zooming into Europe, France in particular, 2030 vision France put 2030s for 54 billion euros investment in industries like education, research, fast-tracking transitions, and innovation. Marie-Cécile, with your distinguished experience over 25 years, track record working in shaping France investment strategy across South America, Asia, and Middle East. Now you are CEO of Business France Investment. Given this complicated context, how does Vision 2030 position France as magnet for foreign capital, and what opportunities does it open to deepen the ties between GCC and France?
Hello, thank you, Daline, for reminding everybody that I'm not so young. I was trying. Thank you.
But you are expert.
You said complicated time. I would say we are in a permanent state of crisis. Since COVID, companies have learned to work during crisis. After COVID, we had inflation, we had energy crisis, now we have wars. So companies, they need to adapt, and countries too. And what France 2030 plan is changing, I think it's changing two things. First of all, the way people can see France. That is, I think, one point. And another point is giving, in this complicated time, some vision of long-term policy. Business France, we are working with companies. Our team on attractiveness, they organize 5,000 interviews a year with companies, asking them why they want to invest, where they want to invest, what kind of project they have. And what do we hear from companies? We hear that they are interested in France because we have structural assets, we have huge markets, we have a really dynamic center of technology and research, and I can see the president of Rising Sud, the Région Sud. We have, for example, Sophia Antipolis, we have Saclay, and we had pro-business measure since President Macron was elected. We had a plan to face COVID, but we needed more. We needed a plan to change the vision people can have of France and to project us in new way to decarbonize, to industrialize, change way to produce. That is what is Plan 2030. It is a plan to transform the economy, to build innovation inside the economy, not only research, from lab to fab. And I believe that for CGG partners, it is a way to see France as a place to invest, not only maybe as in the past for retail, real estate, but to go deep into new technologies. And we're having lots of strategic sectors that I think we will share, and some countries have the same strategic sector: energy, biotech, new mobilities. So these kind of sectors where we are investing some money, public money, and are waiting for private companies to come and invest. So it is changing the way companies can see France, and it is also paving the way for a long-term change of the French economy.
Great. Mohammed, leading the Saudi France Business Council, CAF, since 2013. Also, you have over than 25 years experience in the global investment.
I started very early.
Yes. Okay. And you obviously lead these dynamism of happening between companies between France and Saudi. So looking at Saudi Vision 2030, that kicked off in 2016 as a bold transformation plan for the country. 9 years passed. We have 5 years to go. Are we on track in Saudi Arabia with this project? And which success stand out? And where should we focus on the next to hit the exceeded targets that you want to achieve by 2030?
Yes, hello, bonjour everyone. Daline, thank you for the question. If I start with 13 years ago, actually we used to come to 3 to 4 times per year to France, trying to motivate French companies on all across sector with our partners, so starting from the public partners, the ministries, the ministers themselves, MEDEF International, Business France, les CCI. And I should confess that it wasn't an easy task. The interest was, we used to come and visit Paris and all the other regions. So we visited Sophia Antipolis, we visited really all 4 corners of France. The things have changed to an extent that we don't find any more time to come to France and promote Saudi Arabia. We're hosting French companies, French delegations in such a number that really, if I look at my agenda with my functions, Guillaume, who's taking the photo there, would confirm this. We, on weekly basis, have French representative from public and private sectors coming to Saudi Arabia. This is one thing. Our challenge is very easy. Now, with time, I usually say it was written on the wall. You know, you are in a metro, in a substation, or you are in a tunnel riding your car, and there are things, marks on the roads that you don't see it. And one day you stop because of traffic jam or something, and you will read few words, and you say, yeah, it was there, but I've never seen it. And actually, it was there, but we did not tackle our challenges the way we're done. And this is basically the base of the Vision 2030. So if we go back, and I think there was a report from Deutsche Bank that everyone forgot in 2005, 2007, which stated that Saudi Arabia would burn 100% of its oil and oil equivalent for the local and domestic market, for energy, for just gas to fuel the cars and so on. So we had to take a decision, and we had to act, and to act fast. And then it's not about construction, once again, and real estate development. We've talked about all the projects, the mega projects in Saudi Arabia. Al Ula is one of them, but across the country, it is definitely the largest work and construction site in the world. But it's not only about this. It's about the transformation, economic transformation. It's about unlocking the Saudi human capital potential. We are a country exceeding 20 million Saudi nationals, above 10 million of residents, who's helping us building the country, unlocking its potential. And we really invest on the human capital. In French, the proper, this later. Okay, so in French, so this would be the title of the next the question then. In French, we said l'édification de l'homme. So this is the second factor. And then the third one is the challenges of the climate with all what's happening in the world. If we go back to the vision, then it is transforming and diversification our economy. So we needed to have a source of revenue other than the oil and gas. And the numbers of 2030 have been achieved. So we are above 50% of our GDP comes from non-oil activities. And to go on back to your question, if we are on track, actually, if you look at it on a 2D, two dimensions, so we are on track. If you look at it in 3D, we are on the right trajectory, but we are much higher in altitude.
Okay.
And I can tell you
so
from now.
So we'll arrive in 2030.
No, we already are in 2030.
Right.
Okay. And I will give you the numbers, but we set a new challenges. So our plan now goes beyond. So we started before the French announcement, and I'm sorry, Cécile, of the France 2030, since we started in 2016, and now we have the visibility of 2030, and we already on some projects expanded to 2040. Okay. As I always say, I'm a man of letters, not a man of numbers, but I will tell you a few things, for example, just to give you an example. The private sector contribution. This is one of our challenges because it was the state who drives the economy of Saudi Arabia. We are at 47% in 24 already. A huge increase from the beginning. SMEs. In Business France, SMEs is a key point. Represent 45% of our GDP, which basically exceeded the 35% initially set for the Vision 2030. Employment, chômage, on en parle énormément. Below 7%. We were above 12, 13, even 14 at certain sectors of the Saudi population. Women's labor in force. We set for 2030 to have 30% active women in the workspace. We are now at 33 already, and we have set new goals for the future. Saudi Arabia is, and I think what helps us here is we are a nation and the country very digitalized. Yeah? So we rank first among the GCC. We rank probably third within the second in the G20, and we are fifth all around the world. So it is very easy for Saudis to embrace the changes to do it. And the home ownership, because this is very important, it is a security for the nationals. Again, we've hit the target of 65 already last year, and then we set. So the full throttle Dalian is still ongoing. We did not reach our cruising altitude. We're still...
That's great news coming from the experts from Saudi Arabia. Let me move to Juan Leon. I have the number of 25 years of experience of each one of you. Really, I'm just recognizing this now.
This is the age
I mean,
bracket you
wow. I mean, yeah, because like I will repeat, you have 25 years of extensive experience across healthcare, real estate, services, ICT, and media. Juan, if we look to Qatar Vision 2030, also they chart a course of balanced economic growth, social inclusion, and environmental stewardship. From your vantage point, how effectively has the country advanced these pillars so far, and which milestones have been the most transformative in Qatar?
Thank you, Daleen. It's an honor to be here, and I will elaborate a little bit on what His Excellency Mr. Ahmed Al Saeed mentioned. He explained how Qatar is today. I'm going to try to explain a little bit also the journey and the vision of 2030. My first time in Qatar was in 2003. That's my personal experience. And I was there because Qatar was going to host the Asian Games 2006. So in preparation of the Games, I was there working for this event. And it was one of the first international, big, huge events hosted in the country, and it was a big success. Those days is when the discussion about the 2030 initiatives were being discussed, right, and then announced. So Qatar focused on 4 main pillars in developing. It's all about development. It's basically in the human development. It's also in the social development, economic development, and environmental development. So when we look at these 4 pillars around the human development, it's mainly, we can talk about healthcare, we can talk about education. There are state-of-the-art hospitals and facilities today in Qatar that we proudly manage as Istithmar. We can talk like, of course, Hamad Medical and also the View Hospital, which we manage, or some others. So Mr. Joe will talk about this later, so I don't want to invade your part. But it's very important to understand also in the healthcare, in the education, for example, we have close to 20 campus sites already. For example, HEC is there. We have also here HEC with us today. I'm alumni of HEC and very proud alumni. And I can tell you they are there. So big things are happening in education, big things are happening in healthcare. When you look at the social development also, the social development of Qatar is around the culture. It is also around the values, the traditions. So they want to keep that, and that is very nice for us expats who live there. It's a very nice ecosystem. It's also very safe country, very clean. So it makes it, a very nice place where you want to live in, right? And in regard to the economic development, many things have happened. So Qatar is investing heavily in calling for tourism. Hosting events, for example, like Millipol. There is a Millipol event in Paris. There is a Millipol in Qatar. It goes every other year. We have KitCom. We have Web Summit, which is a great success, international event. And for example, in Web Summit, there are a lot of startups, investors, so we all get together, and a lot of big things happen, and a lot of development projects happen. And when we look at, for example, technology, all of the big international companies are in Qatar these days. And His Excellency was mentioning, for example, the case of Microsoft and Google, who have built their data centers, region data centers in the state of Qatar, which is really, really amazing. In terms of private sector, there is a call for companies to come to Qatar. There are available free zones. There are 2 free zones near the airport, near the port, offering value added for companies that want to set in the free zone. It's very easy to set up a company fast, and of course you have a lot of benefits by doing so. And there is also a call for manufacturing. Electricity, for example, the price is pretty good. It's very, very efficient. So, if you want to set up a factory or any sort of manufacturing in Qatar, it's also a great idea to do. And then in terms of environmental and obviously, there is a big push in balancing what is the economic growth and what is also the sustainability. It's not a big country, so some resources, obviously, like everywhere in the world, but resources are limited. So it has to be a safe, a stable, and eco-friendly development. So I would highlight those things in terms of the vision of the 2030 vision.
Thank you, Juan.
Thanks.
Let me move to Sharif Shawki, tax lead in PwC and Middle East and Kuwait. Also, you have extensive experience in tax policy, regulatory compliance, and legislative reform. And obviously, if we are speaking about vision for countries that they are really developing rapidly, we look at two things: tax. If we are foreign companies coming to GCC, one of the things that we need, obviously, to look at tax regulation and legislative reform in these countries. So. You are based in Kuwait, and also Kuwait has its Vision 2035. How PwC guiding the modernization of company law and investment in climate reform to accelerate that growth from what you do in PwC?
Thank you very much, Daleen, and thank you, panelists, and thanks to Business France, of course, and for all our guests today. It's an honor to be with you. I guess, Daleen, as you can see from Mohammed and from Juan's comments and the team as well, it's all about the visions are coming together, whether that's in Saudi or in Qatar or in the GCC in general. We all share the same objectives, I guess, within the region. This is the most dynamic area now. The Middle East and the GCC is very dynamic in terms of the development, the growth, the projection. It's not as mature as the other areas in the whole world, and things are developing really massively, which creates a lot of opportunities and business cooperation among the territorial. So when it comes, because of my profession, we help companies, with the setup, we help them with the regulation, with their strategy, with the consulting, and with the tax as well. So we know exactly the challenges, and it is coming in line as well with those visions. So in a brief term, just to cover as well Kuwait as a country, we have a vision for 2035 that is very ambitious vision, not far away from what has been discussed about Qatar and Saudi Arabia. But in a nutshell, Kuwait has a very good ambition in terms of the healthcare, the education, and the other sectors as well. So the plan now is to have, for example, more than 8,000, beds in hospitals in Kuwait. And we are seeing, in the healthcare sector, like companies like, and hospitals like Gustave Roussy, for example, they came to Kuwait and they started to have like this kind of business as well. We're seeing as well, a plan to reduce the licensing of opening any companies or corporate to be only for 14 days. We are seeing as well, a plan to have more than 3,500 small and medium enterprises to be open in the country. We are seeing as well a plan in the education sector to have more than 14 universities and educational institutions to be opened in Kuwait. So the vision is really bright in terms of what the government is looking to achieve, and it is coming aligned with the implementation. So asking me about how this is structured in Kuwait, for example, you will find now that there is what we call KDIPA, the Kuwait Direct Investment Promotion Authority. It has its own objective as well to facilitate facilitate the business and to open up for companies and to help the foreign investors to start on having the seamless way of opening up and getting into this. You will find that along to your part of the question, Talene, as well, on how that correlate with the development and the regulatory changes. So for the first time, we are seeing taxes coming in the region. We are seeing the value-added tax has been implemented in KSA. We are seeing that has been implemented in UAE.
Corporate tax.
And corporate tax, and the Pillar 2 and the domestic minimum top-up tax. And we are seeing now whatever has been already achieved in Europe and in USA is coming along in the Middle East region and in the Gulf region as well. And that creates like a good momentum for companies to start having the proper setup, the good regulatory framework, and to have the governance in the operation and to set up things properly. So in a nutshell, and just to summarize, conscious of time as well, the GCC is really very dynamic. It's very booming. We share all the same objective but different priorities. It is the time now for those regulatory change to be well taken care of. I guess there is lots of interest between France and Europe in general and the GCC, especially what is happening in Saudi Arabia, the NEOM, Al Ula, and all of these projects that are taking place. So I guess there is a very good momentum, very good cooperation, and I guess that will be continuing for this up at least the next 5 years.
Thank you, Sharif. Let's go directly to sectors and I mean, coming back to Mohammed, Saudi Arabia has big projects like NEOM, developing, as you said, it's like a biggest construction site in the world. If we look to sectors, I mean, if we look to the transformation of certain sectors, so where investors need to look when they want to come to Saudi Arabia?
Everywhere.
Yeah, that's
to
easy.
make it simple.
More details, please.
Look, we have priorities. So if we
top three sectors.
Let me answer you differently. I think that our strategy was again very simple. We put what some investors call the seeds money. So the PIF, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, wanted to be the engine of the transformation. They started investing in some sector. If we take, for example, the hospitality in Red Sea or in Al Ula, PIF has massively invested. Okay, so we say the state, but at the end of the day, those at the Red Sea or at Al Ula, these are companies owned by the PIF. So we have always the regulator on one hand and the developer, which are companies. They put the money, they invested it. The hotels are now up and running. So if there is an investor who is willing to take over not anymore a green field, but a gray field, and to invest money, they will be able, the PIF, to re-inject that money in new projects. Healthcare is definitely, we have a massive program of privatization, and we know that we are rolling out these programs, and we have to give some interesting projects for investors. So we're willing now to let go, quote unquote, some trophy assets at a competitive rates and interesting ROIs. So the healthcare is one of them. The sports is now a super priority to invest in the sports because we're doing
field.
Exactly,
yeah.
and because we're building just for Mr. Leon.
Yeah, because Qatar as well, I mean, one of the first in the region who looked to this sector and like really went directly to the point with the World Cup. Okay,
so I sit at one of the PIF's football club, Al Ahly, and the PIF has 4 football clubs. The Aramco has one, Al Ula has one, and we have plenty, probably more than 20 mega stadiums in Saudi Arabia. All those we need to make them venues for large events in Saudi. But what is very interesting, yesterday we were at the Région Île-de-France. Madame la Présidente Valérie Pécresse saw us, and we went to the Olympic Village. And actually, what we're trying to learn, we went there with the newly appointed CEO for the Expo 2030. What we're trying to learn, actually, is how we will design. Leon talked about the World Cup. If someone was with us from the UAE, he would have talked about the Expo.
The Expo 2020.
So just imagine that Saudi Arabia has both events in a very short time span. So 2030, the Expo. Even before we have the Winter Olympic Games in Trojena, then we have the Expo, and then in 34 we have the FIFA World Cup. And we want all these investments first to be sustainable, eco-friendly, but we want from today work on the legacy. What would those infrastructure become after the major events? Yeah,
exactly.
So this is a large field for investors.
Let me go to Juan right away, because this is a very interesting point. You in Qatar, you have the experience. I mean,
yes.
when it comes to sport and sport tourism as well, and that's what we witnessed, a couple of years ago. So. Looking to this experience and, I mean, how Qatar are going forward with this, this type of investment and how you keep it sustainable.
Okay, so I worked in major sport events for 18 years of my life. So you touched on something I really like.
I see how happy you are to answer this question.
Yeah. I mentioned the Asian Games of 2006. Obviously, there have been so many events over the years till the FIFA World Cup of just a couple of years back. It was a great success. And we are now working for, I'll just name the largest ones, the FIBA World Championship that will be hosted in 2027 in Qatar, and again the Asian Games of 2030 that will be hosted in Qatar. And I'm hearing that Qatar is also going for Olympic Games in 36. So how to make it sustainable? You have to use them. So you have to bring talent. It's not only about hosting events, but it's also about having teams, children, schools, and bring talent. Qatar is importing talent from all over the world to come and train in the Qatari facilities. So there were huge facilities built for the Asian Games of 2006. All of the Aspire Zone was done. And for the FIFA World Cup, some of those stadiums in existence were used and repurposed, and some other stadiums were built. So now you have an ecosystem of sport events facilities that is state-of-the-art.
Exactly. Let me go to Marie-Cécile. If we look to these type of mega big projects and events, obviously French companies were really very well present in these events like Expo 2020, Dubai, the World Cup, and some other events even in the region. How you cope with this very rapid change taking place in that region? Everything, there is something new, everything, there is something just like showing up, and obviously it's very rapid change for these companies coming from France to the GCC.
Yes, clearly countries are changing fast, and the whole panel shows that what is really interesting is that now we are not discussing in trying to attract investment to France, or you trying to attract. We are just in cross investments. And we see, first of all, French companies working on partnership with companies from GCC, and just on AI. We had from Emirati and Saudi companies some campuses built in France, so that we know, first of all, how to work together. That's the first thing to cope with this rapid change.
The teamwork
is to work together and to develop partnership, not trying just to try to have contracts. in those big events, but first of all, trying to work and to know how to work together. Secondly, French companies, they know that they need to go also as a team. We succeeded in bringing some know-how in Qatar and having a kind of club of French companies working together and bringing new technologies. And you said you visited the Solideo village yesterday. And what we saw with the Olympic Games in Paris, we developed new technologies, being on water, being on heat, being on lots of different aspects that are needed for sustainable infrastructures. We developed them during the Olympic Games, and we will be really happy to bring them to events. And that's really interesting to see how many huge events, yes, are going to be organized in the region. We also are going to have some interesting events in France, because if you see, we're going to have the Winter Games 2030. Yes. So, and that's after your Winter Games. So we must see that those different events will bring new technologies. I think 2024 Olympic Games were the first of a new generation. Because of COVID, the last Olympic Games were just, unfortunately for Japan, not an opportunity to develop. But with technology, also fan experience, sport experience, new things are going to be built for the next games. And those games, as for the exhibition, the Expo 2030, it's the same kind of entertainment, infrastructure, business events. So I'm sure all those different events will build on. Every event will be a new stage in having a sustainable infrastructures and projects.
Great. Let's move to developing a human capital. This is a very important part when we see a region that developing rapidly with a lot of youth in its population. So, Sherif, how does PwC work with GCC government, companies and universities to reform the education and training non-oil economy, preparing the next generation to go forward in this?
Well, that's a very critical and very important. Yeah, we cannot go with the growth or the vision without having the preparedness with the youth and the young generation and the development of our personnel. You will find almost in most of the GCC countries, you will find what we call Kuwaitization, Saudizations, Qatarizations, and so on. And that is existing, and it is part of, you know, what we really need to develop in this area. It is happening, it is embedded, it is obligated by the governments. Sometimes, for example, when you get a contract, you know, in Kuwait or in Saudi or whatever, there is a quota of Kuwaiti nationals or Saudi nationals that should be on part of that. Now things has changed a lot, to be honest, and the young generations and the education, it becomes much more modern. And to be honest with you, if you look at the budgetary and the treasury of any government of those, you will find a big burden of that is the payroll of the governmental pay for employees. Now the shifting is going to the private sector. It is going into the technology. It is going into the modern way of doing the business, the clouds, the artificial intelligence, and so on. And we are seeing that is developing. In terms of what we do as PwC, we have a big part of what we help organizations and companies. So we help as a transformation, for example, with the ministries in Kuwait and in KSA and in many of the governmental areas on how to develop the talents and how to have preparedness for the future and how to have that. We also collaborate with universities for the fresh graduate programs. We help as well in terms of the training and development in many of those, the big organizations like Aramco, like Kuwait Oil companies and so on and so forth. So it's, and we have our internal way of development, our employees as well. So now we believe that the technology and the youth and the young generation, it has to come out with a different approach of doing the business. We have internal programs like the LEAP, like the Falcon, like the My Way. We have a lot of development of skills for our young generation. I guess there is a lot to be done in this area. There is a very big focus by the government, whether Kuwaitization, Saudization, Qatarization, or whatever, as well as the private sectors to move toward that.
Thank you. Juan, how it's going on in Qatar when it comes to human capital development? Really in short, we just have 3 minutes.
I will be very quick. I mentioned already about education,
yes.
but equality and diversity, I would say. So we already kind of touched on it in the panel, but yeah, definitely.
Especially,
equality.
for example, Qatar, it's like very, the number of population is really, maybe like not really big.
Yeah.
Qataris nationals. So when it comes to capital development, so it's like for basically Qataris, nationals, and
yes,
attracting expats, obviously, to work and live.
Yes, there is obviously the Qatarization that was mentioned. And there is also a good environment for expats, okay, to work. But Qatar is, they're just selective, of course. They want good professionals, and they want talent. Population today is around, I think, I read 3.1 million. And we talked about 2006, so those days, it was 500, 600,000. So it's been huge growth. So it's very important to diversify in private sector and all the areas we were discussing in the panel to make it sustainable.
Thank you. Mohammed, in Saudi Arabia, in short, in 30 seconds, how is going when it comes to developing... Thank you. I like his answers.
No, you know the difference of Saudi with our brothers and neighbors in the GCC.
Yes, because you are the opposite. You have bigger population in Saudi Arabia.
And the Saudization was really a challenge. But I think that we started early. So under King Abdullah, we had a program of education, sending Saudis at a certain postgraduate to study abroad. Today we have 70,000 studying abroad just to bring skills. But it's not only this. We're opening our local and national education to international universities and schools. I think that in Qatar and in the UAE, they took that path before us. We're catching up, so you will see a few announcements. And so this is the debit now.
Yes,
I
need to get yeah.
But actually, what is very important, and this is what we discovered, because we have a huge number of universities, is all the training and the vocational education. And this is where we're very good, just to train Saudis to the new jobs created under the vision, so the hospitalities, also the education and other sectors.
Great. Marie-Cécile, beyond investment, how is France bringing its know-how to the region? Because obviously when we sign a contract or when we go for a project, a big project like Expo or like the World Cup, we see a lot of French companies bringing the know-how. So how this also supporting the GCC region?
We clearly have a strong institution in the GCC to train people. But I would like just to comment on France 2030, because we also have a plan. We also have a plan to develop skills. And if companies have some needs, there is a call for projects, and they can explain what kind of skills they imagine they will need in the future, so that we can train them and create classes. We did it in IA, and we also have schemes to develop school of production, because as I said, it's not just one way. Now we are both ways. We really need to develop also skills in France for new technologies. So we are, I think, doing the same job all together.
And with this great insights, I conclude this panel. We can go for hours when it comes to speaking about vision and what's going on in the region and in France. Thank you very much for these great insights. Let's take a photo and we will go to the next panel.
Thank you.